Oh, I didn't get arrested. I'm not in prison right now. I am at Harvard. Spent the weekend watching Harvard softball, and tickets are so obnoxious that you know what? I said, "Hey, look, I'm going to stay till Monday." They made about half price off. But what a weekend it was! No, Harvard only went 1-2. That's not what I'm talking about. But how about this Final Four? And may I start with the text that came in from a bunch of former Indiana players? Two of them said the same thing back to back. There is a God. What does that mean? There is a God means, ladies and gentlemen, that no Houston and Calvin Sampson, who came into Indiana like a crazy person and destroyed our program. That's number one. And of course, Alabama Slamma decided, well, we're going to sell our soul. We don't care about any kind of pride or character or dignity or integrity. We are simply going to try to win basketball games. And the kid that they put their hopes on, Brandon Miller, 3 for 19, 1 for 10 from three, a complete blank show. Then the text came in. There is a God. There is a God. We do have a God. And I'm like, you know what? You ain't wrong, brother. You ain't wrong. Dylan, could you put the program on here? I only have it in a little box. I don't have it on the main screen here so I can see it if you don't mind. FAU, look, we're going to talk to Dusty May coming up here in a moment. But Dusty May led his team to the point of getting to the Final Four at Florida Atlantic University. And Florida Atlantic University did it in a variety of ways. Now, they had to go toe-to-toe with Memphis, an uber athletic team. They had to go toe-to-toe with them and got a last-second shot and got it done. Pretty good. FDU, the darling of the tournament. Oh, my God, look what they did to Purdue. Well, guess what? They were going to lose. No, they weren't. They ended up getting that done. And then they had to go up to big, bad Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee with all that physicality, they're getting Duke in the mud. Duke quit like Dukies do. Next thing you know, they whooped up on them, and then they had to beat the darling. You know, Marquise Newell, and they did. You know, I got to tell you, this run that they're on, and I cannot wait to talk to Dusty May about it coming up here in a few minutes. This run they're on is just sensational, and it's fun because it's team basketball. You know, it's passion. It's finding the next. It's egoless. Jahani Davis seems to be their hero, but man, it's just team. And I love it. And when you look at all of these teams, it's just team. UConn over Gonzaga. Now I'm staying Saturday night. UConn over Gonzaga was the best performance we've seen in the tournament. Like that second half was incredible. They beat they beat Gonzaga by 30. And I got to tell you, yeah, it was probably that. It wasn't like all of a sudden they won a game by 30. It wasn't like all of a sudden we won by 30. They just beat them, and it got to 30. And it was not going to come back from 30. See, there are different ways. You know, you get up 20 or 15, 18, you know, whatever, and then you start making shots because everybody's loose and you win by 30. This was a physical beatdown by the best team in the tournament, by the coach that coaches them the hardest. Here's what I love about these teams. Danny Hurley coaches his team harder than anybody. Danny Hurley did not lose one single player in the transfer portal. Now, I want you to think about that. Coaches today are so afraid to coach their teams, particularly in college basketball, because everyone's a whiner. Barkley said it the other day on 60 Minutes. We live in an era where players don't like to be criticized. Okay, guess what happened? Danny Hurley is tougher than tough on his team. He just is. But he loves them up. Everybody's got to love him up. I don't get the whole love him up thing, but that's what you're supposed to do. And Danny Hurley had nobody transfer, and Danny Hurley at UConn has the best team in the tournament. I'll tell you who else coaches them tough. We told you last week when I gave you my 5 best coaches remaining in the Sweet 16, we gave you the name Brian Dutcher. Why did I give you the name Brian Dutcher? Well, San Diego State's head coach is known for toughness defensively. Now, you got to understand Dutch. He coached and recruited 2 different groups to Michigan. He had the Glenn Robinson group, which when he and Steve Fisher took over right before the tournament, ended up winning a national championship. Glenn Rice, the outstanding player. He coached that group. Then he was involved ultimately with the Fab Five, that group of crazies that ultimately put Michigan on probation and caused them to lose their banners. He was involved in both. when you thought of Michigan, you didn't really think of toughness. But all of a sudden, here's the history of San Diego State. They go out to San Diego, they being Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher. And what do? They establish a team that's going to fight you on the West Coast. They establish a defensive-minded, very physical team and program. Fisher, great run. This guy Dutcher comes in. Next thing you know, they're in the Final Four. It's pretty freaking amazing. It's pretty freaking amazing what they have been able to do there. I told you earlier, I fell in love with Mountain West basketball. And there it is, a Mountain West team in the tournament. All right, I followed Jim Larrañaga to Bowling Green. Got to tell you, when I got there, I wasn't that impressed. He had won some games. His son and Antonio Daniels were there. They had won some games. Wasn't all that shot in the backside with how things were run, but hey, I digress. Jim Larrañaga has turned out to be a great basketball coach. Jim Larrañaga has now sent not one, but two teams to the Final Four. He did it in 06 at George Mason, and he did it at Miami. And I got to tell you, same thing. High-powered, high-octane offense with a lot of toughness. You know, you're seeing a theme here. Are you seeing it? Like, I'm going to change my tune. I always thought you got to make shots to win the tournament. I do still think that. But as I'm watching this, you can't have kind of teams. You can't have some guys are in, some guys are out, blah, blah, blah. You got to have a team number one. Brad Stevens said it. I want everybody pushing in the same direction. That's how they did it at Butler. It didn't matter if it was a janitor. Didn't matter if it was a secretary. Didn't matter if it was a baseball coach. Didn't matter if it was a grad assistant in the athletic department. Everybody in Hinkle Fieldhouse, in Brad's words, were pushing in the same direction. There was no me. There was no I. There was no look at me. Think about these teams. And when you think about Miami, Isaiah Wong's the ACC Player of the Year. The Pac kid comes over. Could have been a lot of jealousy. Big money deal. John Louise takes him from K-State. Guess what? K-State didn't miss him. But certainly Miami helped out by having him. And then yesterday was one for the ages. It was one for the ages. And you know what that was? Let me give this to you so you understand what happened yesterday. There's a kid named Jordan Miller from Miami. Jordan Miller from Miami decided, hey, look, he, go 7 for 7. All right. And can go 7 for 7. Okay. 7 for 7. Then he's going to go, ladies and gentlemen, 13 for 13 from the free throw line. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. 13 for 13 from the free throw line, 7 for 7. He took 20 shots yesterday, and he made them all. Now, you could lock guys in a building, say, take 20 different shots. And other than just standing here doing that, they ain't making 20 in a row. I'm just telling you, it's one of the great performances that you're ever going to see. Leitner did that back when Leitner was doing his thing. 7 for 7 from the field, 13 for 13, 20 for 20. Pretty good. They were down 13 in the second half. Miami was. They won by 7. That's athletic ability. That's good guard play. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear me say it. That's real toughness. I mean, real toughness. So as I look at the Final Four, San Diego State against FAU, people say, well, you know, San Diego State, really, really tough. They'll swarm FAU. And I say, well, wait a second here. Wasn't Tennessee supposed to do that? I think they were. I think Tennessee was supposed to. No, don't sleep. I'm telling you, don't sleep on FAU. How you want to play? You want to get up and down? All right. You want to play physical? Yeah, I got you. And the other one, look, Miami's playing great, but is anybody playing at the level of UConn? We're going to break it down all week for you. We're going to have Dusty May coming on here in about 10 minutes, and he'll break it down for you better than any. The Empire State Building lit itself up in the colors of FAU, and I got to tell you, it's glorious. How about FAU? One guy doing their announcing, one guy on their SID crew, and here they are in the Final Four, and I could not be happier. All right, I'm going to jump around here, but I'm going to stay with basketball, Dylan and Ryan. I don't know if you guys watched this last night, but Caitlin Clark is unfreaking unbelievable. And when I say unbelievable, I mean this. I came back, we had a whole day in Boston. I mean, we went to Newberry Street, we went to Cheers, we went to, where'd we go? Fenway. We sat in the little bar underneath Fenway off of the field. The field was right here. Had a great day. Walked around a ton. I got back to the hotel. We had a great dinner. I went back to the hotel, and I got to tell you, I was tired. I took a shower, started working on today's show, started watching Caitlin Clark, kept watching Caitlin Clark, couldn't stop watching Caitlin Clark. Lee came in because we were with another couple and they wanted to just hang out in the lobby. It was Lee's best friend and just kind of wrap it up. She comes in. She goes, "What are you doing?" I got to tell you, I'm watching this Iowa girl. She's unbelievable. She sits down. Now, you guys know Lee. She's an athlete, all that kind of stuff. Lee sits down. She goes, "Oh, my God." She makes the right play every time. She knocks in deep threes. She talks that yang. She's unbelievable. 97 points they put up in the Elite Eight against Louisville. Now, I'm sitting there watching, and I couldn't stop. I could not stop. See, that's the fun, in my opinion, of watching. When somebody is so good that you're like, wait a second, I cannot stop watching this person play basketball. She's hitting them deep. She's flicking them in. She's always making the right pass. The ball moves. She's not a pig. She's great. Look, I sat there, I watched, and I went, you know what? Give me more. Give me more. I'll watch Caitlin Clark play basketball anytime, anywhere. I didn't like it. I absolutely freaking loved it. I thought it was one of the best afternoons of basketball that I have seen, or best evenings of basketball out of one player that I have seen in maybe whatever, Steph Curry division. That's how it is to me. It's Steph Curry division. It was like, wow, look at this. Go, Steph. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal to watch. I mean, I don't even know what to tell you. All I can tell you is watch her. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe in the Final Four, somebody has something for you. Maybe, just maybe in the Final Four, she can't get her shot off. Maybe, just maybe somebody's uber quick and can get in your backside and away you go. Maybe. But I got to tell you, I didn't see it yesterday. And Louisville was a pretty damn good basketball team. All right, I want to go back to the Creighton-San Diego State game, late in the game. A lot of people are debating whether it was a foul or not. Reason I went to Caitlin Clark right there, I just had to get it in the first segment here. The A block, we call it, because she was so freaking good. Jump shot taken, Nebhart, little push on the hip. Everybody's kind of missing the point. I think it's a bad call. But here's why I think it's a bad call. Because I don't think the push was enough to do what the shooter did. Maybe I'm wrong. I've always said, when you see an illegal screen, and a guy runs into the screener and the announcer says he flopped, I'm like, yeah, well, you may never have been hit by a 6'6", 260-pound guy. But when I watched that shot, the little push that Nebhart did to Trammell, I said, all right, the referee had to know that it was a push. Like, I can push like that and you can barely see it, but I'm giving you a good shot. Or is his hand just on him? That's the difference. I mean, if your hand is just on a guy, on his hip, is that a foul? Not in a physical game. Now, if your hand's on a shooter, it's automatically a foul. I don't care if it's barely touching or it's pushing. So that's the biggest difference in this. I've heard people debate it. Don't tell me that I had Creighton betting. I did not. I had San Diego State. So this is not that. I'm just a basketball guy that saw it and said, all right, hang on here. I didn't think that was a foul. However, if you go back and look, the shooter, Trammell, does kind of fall pretty good going to his left. He's going, he shoots, the push comes, and he kind of comes unglued as he's fouling. People say, well, you can't call that at the end because it determines the game. That's crap. That's just stupid. What determines the game is, number one, the guy putting his hands on him, and number two, the guy going and making a free throw. And let me explain something to you. Making that free throw isn't just an automatic. Making that free throw isn't just like, oh, okay, we're just going to make a free throw. No, making that free throw determines the game. He's up there, he's looking, he's eyeing, he's shooting. That determines the freaking game. That right there. So if anybody tells you, hey, look, referees, I don't like them determining the game. Do you know how much pressure there is on that kid to make a free throw? I've told you this before. We lost state tournament in Indiana, 18,000 people. One of my best friends had 2 shots, down one though. Down one, make one, we tie, make 2, we win, miss 2, we lose. He missed 2. So the game was absolutely 1,000% determined by the guy shooting the free throws and the guy putting his hand on the shooter. That's as simple as I can make it. So, well, you can't. No. And, ladies and gentlemen, if it is a foul in the first 40 minutes, 35 minutes, 38 minutes, then it's a foul at the end of the game. You don't all of a sudden decide what are fouls and what aren't fouls just because of the time of the game. If it's a foul, it's a foul. And for the love of God, stop with the crap of, well, you know, the referee shouldn't deter. Don't put your hand up. Make the free throw. That's what determined the game. The referee's just a conduit to the end of the game. That's it. So whenever I hear that, it drives me nuts. It's like, well, you know, the referee determined the game. No, he didn't. If they did not call that foul, then guess what? Then they determined the game. That's what happened. If they didn't call, if they let it go, that's when the referee determined the game, because what had to happen? A push, foul, a free throw, made. Game determined. So people are a little bit crazy with that, and that's why I am here to help you out. Anyway, let's recap. Wacky tournament, great tournament. Congrats to everybody that's involved in the tournament. College basketball is completely on a hot streak here. I understand now, first time in my life as a fan, that I did not have to work at all other than just doing a bunch of shows. Show here, show there, all that kind of stuff. It was the first time I got to sit and watch, and I got to tell you, I loved every minute. I loved absolutely every minute. I thought it was fantastic, and I know you all did too, because you sit there and maybe you don't watch the first few minutes of the game. Okay, I get that. Maybe you missed the first few minutes, but damn, you're going to watch the end. And I'll tell you something else. We're going to watch Caitlin Clark on this show. We're straight going to watch Caitlin Clark. Don't at me. The woman is phenomenal. Phenomenal. That's right. And you know what else we're going to do? We're going to root like hell for FAU. I love these 4 teams in the tournament. Let me just recap. Danny Hurley coaches his team like a crazy person. And you know what his team does? They don't cry. They don't whine. They don't complain. They don't do nothing but go to work. That's what they do. Nobody quit. Nobody leaves. They just went to work and are the best team in the tournament. That's what they are right now. The best team. They are. You can make an argument. FAU's had a hell of a run to it. You can make an argument for any of the teams. But when you beat Gonzaga by 28 points, when you go whoop Gonzaga, yeah, I got to tell you, it's a whole different ball game, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see what happens when they play Miami. Jim Larinaga, 2 teams to the final. 2 teams to the NCAA Final Four. Dusty May has taken a team that never, ever won a NCAA tournament game. And like Larry Bird, back in 1979, they had never won an NCAA tournament game. They're in the Final Four. And I got to tell you, I am not betting against that crew, and neither should you. There's no reason to bet against FAU other than ignorance, other than you're just not smart enough to say, wait a second, let me look at this. Let me see what's going on here. Because if you have paid attention to Florida Atlantic, if you've paid attention and said, hey, look, this is what Florida Atlantic is, what freaking route do you want to play? How do you want to play? They'll whip your ass.
And how thinking about that we're going to be playing. You know, it's hilarious. I looked at Ruthie's bracket this morning.
Mm-hmm.
She got one right.
Hey, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Yep, keep everybody down in front. I'm ready to go, Coach. Sorry about that.
Hey, I was just saying, I'm watching your team, and I sent you a text, and thanks for texting back. What a fun thing, because any way somebody wants to play, let's go. Tennessee wants, let's go. And that's a fun thing, isn't it, to know you can handle damn near any style?
Yeah, we talked about it early. Are we on the air right now, or are we just talking?
We're on the air.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about it early in the season, and obviously as coaches, you're trying to always sell into your guys, and we talked about it. Hey, we're going to be prepared to play in any way, shape, or form, any style, the way we're built, the roster versatility. So I'm not sure we believed it with as much conviction as we let on, but we're very confident now. We actually were talking about that this morning, because you never know how you're going to shoot it in a dome. And we always laugh. We say, well, if our threes go in, it just determines the margin we win by. Even if they don't, we're going to find a way to win.
See, here's what I saw. And look, I'm sitting on my ever-increasing fat ass, okay, watching you guys play. And I see Tennessee, and they're supposed to be so physical. I saw in your players maybe a second half, maybe from the start. All right, Tennessee, we'll beat you with threes. We're going to beat you dry, but we'll kick your ass too. That's the mentality that I saw. We'll physically beat you.
Yeah, our guys, I don't get it, Coach. All year, we play these teams, and then you hear these coaches before the game talking about how we shoot threes and we're this, and we do that, and we want to play loose on offense, and we give our guys a lot of freedom, and they really know how to play off of each other. But we've felt like from day one, we've been a top 25 rebounding team in the country with I think a bottom 30 team in height. And if you take away Golden, then we're probably the smallest team in the country that plays significant minutes. So we don't understand it. We heard it this morning. All the guys on ESPN, our strength coach sent me another message this morning that they're saying San Diego State's going to out physical us. They're just too tough. And we're okay, I guess maybe whatever. Okay, we're not tough enough. So just roll with it and do the best we can.
That just tells me they didn't watch the games, or they don't know, I
think sometimes just, and even in coaching, we just go with sometimes with coach speak or just whatever, on the surface looks right or feels right. But hey, San Diego State, though, they're probably as tough as anyone we played all year. So it would be easy to say how they're going to out-tough somebody, because they've out-toughed just about everyone.
There's no question about it. For some reason, I fell in love with the Mountain West. I think it was just watching Alfred. So I watched, and I'm like, all right, that's built on toughness. But I go back to this. There was not only, and I'm gonna move on from this, but it's so cool to watch this for me personally. All right, you guys at Tennessee are the bad boys, basically, right? You know, everybody. All right, and you made the comment about we got to play rugby, and everybody lost their mind and started crying about that. But I saw a connection. It was like, I don't give a. Well, I don't care. I'm going to beat your ass, and I'm going to beat it again, and beat it again, and beat it again. And that didn't stop in that game. And I assume if I'm watching, and I am, it's not going to be toughness if you get beat. It's not going to be toughness that beats you. Let me say that.
100%. And even one of our guys hit a guy and got a foul on a rebound the last game. And in our message, we don't do that. We're not playing anything cheap, anything dirty. But every single day we have a saying, and our guys have embraced it. You're either the hammer, you're the nail. No matter how big you are, you're either the hammer or the nail, and the hammer's going to win. And our guys, when we're watching film, we don't call them any names. We don't say you're this, you're that. We just say simply, are you the hammer or you're the nail? And early on, a couple guys, even Big Vlad the Russian, would say, not the hammer. And I'd say, no, you're either the hammer or the nail. He didn't even want to say it. So they have a mindset that they're always going to be the hammer. They spend a lot of time in the weight room. Our strength staff is unbelievable. So we were lifting, the CBS guy said they'd never seen a team lift like that on the road. They follow these teams around, and our guys are in the weight room the day before the Tennessee game. I mean, lifting, moving weight, and it's as much of a mindset it is as a physical thing.
When did you know this mindset was there?
Well, the leadership of that group with John L. Davis, who you're familiar with from the region, and Elijah Martin, Giancarlo Rosado, and Nick Boyd, they've always had a different level of belief of. I mean, Coach, you've played against the best and coached the best. The guys that are irrationally confident, we call them irrationally confident. These guys had some of that from day one, but they're also very intelligent. They're self-aware. They want to get better. So all that rolled into it. But I think when this group became the leaders of our locker room, then that's when we took the next step because our locker room, those guys, man, I've never been a part of something more special than those guys holding each other accountable. They're real with each other. They don't let each other stray or get on that stuff. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. Brad Stevens told me when we would talk about his run at Butler, he said, the key thing was everybody in Hinkle Fieldhouse, everybody, whether it was the secretaries, the janitors, the baseball, everybody was moving in the same direction. And I watch your team, and I think everybody in that organization, there's no me over here on social media, or it's everybody in the same. That's what it seems like to me, what Brad was talking about with his Butler group.
100%. That's us in a nutshell. And a Kansas State assistant named Jareem Dowling, who was there, we competed against on Saturday. He was an assistant in North Texas. In North Texas and us, we share a lot of the similar traits, and we battled with him for the last couple of years. And we couldn't have more respect for the program. So when he left, I said, "Give me one thing, man. I know you're not going to hurt your guys, but give me one thing that separates that program from everybody else," because we never felt like they had the best players. We never felt like they had the best talent, but they always found a way to win when it mattered. And you saw them beat Purdue a couple of years ago. So we know how good they are. And he said, from the managers to the GAs, there is not one person that you can complain or moan or whatever to that won't set the record straight. And they're all aligned from top to bottom. And that was the one thing that we really put an emphasis on, that you can't complain to a manager and a manager co-signs the BS. It has to be every single one of us. If there's an issue, we put it out, we talk about it, we figure it out. I say it all the time, fellas, I make more mistakes than the whole locker room combined because I have more decisions and we're wrong, and we're okay being wrong every day, but we're never going to accept anything that's going to, that we know is not reality.
You guys, did you go through any period this year? Your record says no, okay? But did you go through any period, I'm not going to say make or break, where things could have not gone the way that they were headed?
Well, I think anytime you lose, it could go the wrong direction.
Yes.
And we're not, we have 2 all-league players coming off the bench all year. So the first stretch we have where it gets fuzzy, then I'm going to, it's going to hurt our locker room because they have all these outside voices. And I knew they were getting it, but they're such great dudes and they're so bought in that they just rolled with it. And so I read this in Coach Dean Smith's book a long time ago. And I read a lot, and there's usually 1 or 2 things from each book that really jump out and stick with you. And he said, he tells us players every single year, if you do what we ask you to do, the wins are yours and the losses are ours. And we've adopted that mantra that if you do what we ask you to do every single day in practice and workouts, weight room, if you just trust us, then the wins are all yours and the losses are all ours as a staff. And after the Middle Tennessee State game, our last loss of the year, I believe, we changed some things up that we don't do every single day, and we lost the game. And a couple of our players were like, "Coach, why would we switch that up? We've done so well." And I said, "You know what? You're right, absolutely right. That's not why we lost. Let's break down the film. But you 100%. We need to trust what we do more than anything else, and we can make slight tweaks, but we don't need any wholesale changes based on an opponent we play. We believe, like you said, we can win any style."
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that a coach was comfortable enough to come to you, and you were comfortable and enough to listen to him.
Well, the staff's always give me a hard time where we call it open mic night. I ask them during the game what they see in the locker room, and sometimes we would get some off the wall crazy things. They'd say, "Coach, no more open mic night." Well, our open mic night now with our guys, you give them the microphone and it sounds like you're talking to 18-year NBA veterans. They know the game, they study it, they watch it. For example, before we played Tennessee, we showed up and we watched Kansas State play, and after we went back to the hotel that night, and the assistant coach is getting ready to do the scout. Usually I'll say, "All right, guys, you watched them play. What did you see?" And I'll ask, hey, Dan, what did you see? Hey, Ryan, what did you see? Whatever the case. And after 5 or 6 of them, I whispered to the assistant that's next to me. I said, "These they really don't need us anymore. They got it." Like they sounded like our staff speaking, and it was a really cool moment just because they were locked in. They weren't there watching the cheerleaders. They were there watching the game and thinking about it from what we need to do to beat them perspective. Really special group.
You see that on the court. You see the right pass being made. You see the sharing. You see you don't make mistakes. Coach Knight always took this, victory favors the team making the fewest mistakes. And the other one is, dumb loses more than smart wins. You guys, you don't make mistakes, and you can see exactly what you're saying. It's like these guys have a master's degree in basketball.
They do, but they watch it, they study it, they play it. They'll send me a clip from a game, the Warriors game last night, where they're watching on TV and say, "Coach, this reminds me of our 2. This would be a good counter." And most of the time, even if I don't like it, I'll use it just to give them ownership. But these guys, they're a smart group, and like I said, anytime you put as much as they do into it, you're going to naturally get better and better and better. So, when it comes game time, I have 100% faith and confidence. Obviously, we have to help them in situations, but for the most part, those guys are out there hooping, and we trust our work is done in March, April, May, June, July, whenever we can hopefully prepare them for everything they're going to see throughout a season.
One of the hardest things I always thought in coaching was setting up the week, figuring out setting. Now, you are used to, since probably, I don't know, all year, we're going to play Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Saturday. You know what I mean? Now you've got a whole week.
Coach, our league is Thursday, Saturday every week. On the road 1 week, at home 1 week. So the routine is almost identical for us.
Right. And now the routine changes because you don't have Thursday. Go ahead.
Well, we had our bye week. Then we'd have a Saturday, Monday for a bye week. So there have been some, but the 2-day prep. And obviously we have a little bit of advantage because they played yesterday, and I think we can get our bearings today. We got delayed, got back late, and all that stuff. But even last night, I was worried our guys, because a couple coaches called me yesterday saying, "Do not go back to campus." And I said, "Why? We have to. We've been on the road. What is today, Coach? It's 27th. Last night was the 4th night of March we've slept in our own beds. It's March 27th. We've been on the road 23 out of 27 days." And I said, no, we have to go back and at least sleep in our bed for a couple of days. But our guys are on text thread last night talking about the game and how we need to stay focused. And it's a testimony to who they are, because I've never seen a group of young people not change up when they start getting the amount of attention they have.
So what was it like when you got back on campus?
We pulled up, the bus pulled up, and this is last night after a 3 or 4 hour delay. And I can't tell you how many people there were, because it was dark and all I could see was people. It was like Dunn Meadow back in Bloomington, like full of people. They had the seas parted so our guys could walk through. Really, really cool moment, because of anyone that, Mikey Forrest, who's been here for 5 years, his parents had their own section at our games for a couple of years. So it's pretty awesome to see a community really rally around our guys and appreciate the way they do things.
Yeah, you got to go back. I mean, I know you want to stay focused, but the kids have to experience that, right? Because that's just once in a lifetime.
Yeah. And the social part of it, and now there's an end in sight. Our season's over in 8 days. You do what you're supposed to do. And in 8 days, we take some time off. You focus on your studies and enjoy being a college student for a little while. But let's make sure that we that we've come too far to not sacrifice for another 8 days. And I'm very, very confident our guys are.
What do you think of, just off the top of your head? I'm not going to talk to you the rest of the week, so I'm curious your thoughts on San Diego State.
Well, I've just watched a couple games, still diving into it, but they are incredibly disciplined and physical guards that shoot a bunch of mid-range shots. They get in the paint. They're bigs. They've got the best defensive big in the league that protects the rim. So anytime you can't really go at the rim, your guards can't really attack the rim. Like Castleton did to us at Florida, it presents a number of challenges, because we've got guards who usually do a good job at the rim, but we'll have to trust each other, continue to drive and kick. And then Golden does a pretty good job of ducking in bigs and sealing them out to kind of get those angle layups. So we'll have to be creative with the ways we attack them.
Last thing, because I'm from a coaching standpoint, people always assumed, I'm going back to Coach Knight, who, if you don't know, Dusty worked for. By the end of the year, you're practicing a half hour. People say, "I bet he's killing you." No, you're practicing half. timing on practice, making sure you don't have an injury. What's the balance here and getting ready?
Yeah, we've managed that a lot better. And once again, I've come a long way this season where our guys, they want to play and compete. And we play a lot in workouts. There's always defense. There's always competition because they love doing it. Anything they like doing, they're going to do it better and harder. So we meet them in the middle. And before the Middle Tennessee State game, we practiced hard 2 or 3 times for an hour and a half. And this is late in the season. And we just looked a step slow that game. And Mike White, who I talk to regularly, and he watches us, so he knows our team and our roster. He said, dude, you got to tell them you're the head coach. And there's certain things you just got to be the head coach. And we're not practicing. We're not going contact today. We're not doing it. So we've done a lot more things where we're trying to work at the speed that we need to play at without the contact, blowing the whistle earlier on the shot. So there's not the rebounds, because our guys, there's 5 guys going after every rebound. So we've just tried to be more creative without losing our edge and our toughness.
You got to outsmart them sometimes.
Well, no, we're not outsmarting these guys. I'm from Eastern Green, man. I would die you. I'm not outsmarting these guys.
I tell people all the time, IU, they just gave us degrees. We didn't have to work for it. Hell,
our degree was in the lower bowls of Assembly Hall.
That's right. Hey, I can't. Your life, what's it been like for you? I mean, the Empire State Building, for crying out loud, is lit up in your colors. You know, Kevin, all these pros are talking about what a great team you have. And what's it been like for you personally and, you know, your family?
Well, my boys are elated. They're into the game. One's a walk-on at Florida, one's a walk-on at UCF, and then one's in high school. So just for them to share it with them, when we bounce around the country, move them to a different state and a different school and a different babysitter every year or two, they go through a lot, and it's great in the long run if they can weather the storm. So just to see how proud they are in that moment of what we've been able to accomplish as a family, and our staff is family, and all of them, you know, they get to share this experience with their young kids, and they're going to love it more. I mean, I remember the 87 team and how those teams captivated me as a young kid and our whole neighborhood and our whole community. So I think our guys are doing that right now. This is our moment. We have to capitalize on it, but it's not coach speak. I don't feel any different. I'm not trying to be composed. I just know that when you're coaching basketball, I get more excited in practice over a big time rebound, or I get more excited about the extra pass in practice. I really, truly feel that during the game, those guys are out there hooping. And if I can't add something or contribute to make them better, then I need to just be quiet and stay out of the way.
And I wish I had that philosophy. Holy cow. I'd still have hair.
Adopted it. It's recent.
Man, hey, I'm so happy for you. Like I text you, it's just fun to watch. I mean, it's legitimately, you're fun to watch because of how you handle it. Your team is so much fun to watch, man. It's like watching a team that I guess every coach dreams of coaching and every player would dream of playing on. That's how I view it. Yeah. Congrats, man. It's just so much fun.
Thank you, Coach. I'm going to tell our guys you said that. That's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah. Good luck, man. And you are. I saw it. Dan Wetzel put it out. Most notable alumni of Eastern Green. Now, my buddy JMB's probably pissed off.
JMB. There's some other guys out there. Burris at University of Indianapolis. Those guys did a heck of a job this year, man. I got a lot of respect for our coaching profession. Those guys at U of I did a good job. There's a lot of Greene County guys out here doing well in this basketball world. You learn to love the game, and you learn to work hard and compete.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, hold on a sec. I forgot about the Burris boys. Those are great dudes. Those guys are awesome.
All good players, yeah. But, Coach Barnheiser, who you know well, he really brought a different level of intensity and passion to our community for the game. And that's where I learned to love it and sacrifice and give everything I have. And even though I wasn't a great player, you learn to love everything that goes with it.
Congrats, man. Have a fantastic week getting ready. You guys, let me ask you, let's put what's the score? What do you got? You got a final for me in the San Diego State game?
No, hey, there's an assistant on staff, and his name's Drew Williamson. We call him Uncle Drew as a joke. We call him Confident Unc because he comes in with some crazy point spreads. I'm like, man, we just got to win this possession. We got to win this. So I already asked him this morning. I said, Confident Unc, what do you got? And he said, man, I haven't seen him enough. I can't tell you yet. So if he doesn't have a prediction, I don't.
Hey, that's a pretty good answer. That answer makes you actually believe it when he says what the score is going to be, right?
Well, he did it earlier. We played an exhibition game, and he said, "Oh, we're going to win this by." He told the guys, "If we're going to win by 40, we need to do this." I said, "Guys, here's how you win by 40. You dominate this possession and then the next." So it became just kind of a running joke. But our guys, they're unfazed by all that. We could go in and say anything, and all they know is how to compete and do what they do every single possession. So it's been a blast to watch them do what they do.
Man, it shows up, and it's been a blast to watch you build that thing, Dusty. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yep.
Appreciate your time.
Yep. Talk soon.
Dusty May, I got to tell you, it's just fun to watch. And I said it, I'll say it, I'll keep saying it, and I won't stop saying it. When somebody goes that route and coaches that way, that's the antithesis of what my dumbass was. It's just fun to watch. It just is. All right. We got a monster for you today. Got a lot more to get to. I'm going to hop on the YouTube chat, see what's going on there. Tell your friends we're rocking and rolling.
Brady recently retiring. Your locker was very close to Tom's locker, wasn't
right next
it?
to 12, yeah.
What was that like?
Man, it was cool, man. He's a funny dude, man. He's a nice guy. Joke with him every day. You know, he's a good dude, man. He's probably one of the only dudes that I know that walk around in a bathrobe in the locker room, bro. So
you go up against him in practice all the time. Could you see that big jump coming from Daniel Jones going into this season?
Man, when I first played against Daniel, you know, coming in last year and seeing him work, man, I knew, you know, the talent that he had. It was just one of those things where, you know, you always hear the saying, God's timing is always right. It was just one of those moments where you knew eventually it was going to click and everything was going to work out, not just for him, but for us as a team. And I'm just so happy for him.
Which video game are you most proud of making the cover for?
Oh, definitely Madden. Madden, yeah. Like I remember I come from a big family. My mom had 6 sisters and 1 brother, and a lot of cousins, 30-some cousins, and you know. And I remember one of the younger ones was like, "Man, you're on Madden. You're really good." And I was like, "Cuz, like, I was the high school #1 player in the country.
Yeah,
I broke every record at Alabama, All-American. I get the pros. I'd won the MVP already. You know?
Yeah.
Been to the Super Bowl, won the MVP. He's like, now because of man, now you're cool. I was like, oh, okay.
You had done a few things.
Yeah. You know, now I'm good. Okay, all right. Well, that's how it works in y'all's minds.
And I remember when I first started working in the morning news. Shout out to Drew Kaliski, super producer for NFL Today. He was just talking about season. How you feeling? You know, you ready to go? Are you excited? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like awkwardly hesitating to ask me a question. And I'm like, what's up, man? Speak your piece. And he's like, do you know what's going on in the NFL? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, do you know who plays for what teams and who's been traded where? I'm like, yeah, bro, what do you think? I'm living under a rock? And this is my job. I'm studying just like anything else.
See, this is what happens with Indiana fans. Indiana fans don't understand what I've been saying, and I know players are mad and guys are going to body bag me and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. You can, and you can get all mad at me if you'd like. But the truth of the matter is, if you're going to have a winning program, you got to have it like what Dusty May has. You got to have everybody moving in the same direction, everybody not worrying about their social media or their brand or any of it. You just do, and I get it. You know, when you don't have that, then there are cracks, and next thing you know, you're done. So, look, offer to all Indiana fans, get as mad as you'd like at me, do whatever you think you need to do, players, everybody. But until Indiana, again, I'm just using Indiana because that's where I'm at, until Indiana puts themselves in this position right here, like Dusty May is talking about, then guess what? You're going to continue to be disappointed, and players can go to TikTok and Twitter and get mad and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? You just heard it. I didn't even think about that until at the break right now. I'm like, man. And this is what I've been talking about. This is what I have been talking about here at Indiana. What I've said, that our culture at Indiana basketball has missed the mark here. It hasn't been exactly like what Dusty May has said. It hasn't been about that. It's been about nonsense. You don't see nonsense out of any of these 4 teams. You don't. You just see ballers. You see UConn, and what does UConn do? They just play hard. What we talked to Dusty May. They don't have guys over here trying to promote themselves. No, they're just ballers. So everybody that wants to get mad at me, all you little IU gals and boys, get mad, get sad, get angry, get glad, but you just heard what I have been talking about. For 13 freaking years, this is what, maybe 20 years, this is what I was talking about. Exactly what I've been saying. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, son of a gun, that was awesome with Dusty May. And it probably isn't going to stop. He will take a bigger job. Woodson will probably be out of there in a year or two. And they should hire Dusty May. I'd hire him right now. All right, I talked about Clark already. I want to get into Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley was talking about basically what I have been talking about with Indiana basketball, but he's doing it on an NBA level. Let's hear from Barkley.
Kevin Durant.
He's very sensitive, great player. He's part of that generation who think he can't be criticized. He's never looked in the mirror and says, man, was that a fair criticism?
We're in agreement. Today's players are a little more sensitive to criticism than your generation.
That would be an understatement.
It's absolutely true. Like, let me use it back with Indiana. I have so many Indiana little athletes and little girls and boys that went to Indiana mad at me because of my criticism with Indiana. And the more they criticize, the more I don't respect them. Because of exactly what Barkley said. When you have somebody with experience like Barkley talking about Durant, or like Barkley talking about Kyrie Irving, or Barkley talking about whomever, does anybody ever say, hey, is that criticism justified? Or do they just say, well, Barkley's just an idiot. He's an old head. He's a talker. I don't know. But I got to ask you. I said Indiana. Well, drag him. Drag Dakich. I go, drag me. Do whatever you like. Make me look bad on Twitter. You'll be the first one. Not. But make an appointment with me. Sit down. And I'll explain to anybody that is involved at Indiana, whether it's a fan or a player, I'll explain to you, like Barkley said, the criticism. It's that simple. That simple. But everybody just wants to get mad because right now we're not allowed to criticize. It's not allowed. Well, I'm allowed, and I'm going to do it, and I'll take being drugged because little somebody on Twitter's mad. Good. Does anybody? I always think about this. Whenever I'm criticized, and I'm criticized every day, is it fair? I think about that, and then I respond. All right, speaking of fair, Riley Gaines has been on our show. Riley Gaines has had it with ESPN's absolute foolishness, ESPN's absolute disgusting lack of regard for women, or better yet, which ESPN's disgusting display of, well, care about women. We don't care about you, Riley Gaines. We don't care. So ESPN does this big, broad Women's History Month, and they recognize this guy right here who walks around women's locker room with his penis out. They, ladies and gentlemen, recognized him in a big segment, being the first transgender athlete to win an NCAA title. Right? Being trans is not a choice. I didn't have any other choice because not transitioning was not leading me. Nobody's saying you should. Good for you, man. Seriously, that's bold. Didn't race with guys. Your biological birth sex or whatever the hell you want to call it. If you're transitioning to be happy, great. But why do we have to disparage women? Why can't we talk about women, real women? So Riley Gaines said Leah Thomas is not brave. She is not a brave, courageous woman who earned a national title. She's an arrogant cheat who stole a national title from hardworking, deserving women. The NCAA is responsible, she said. If I was a woman working at ESPN, I would walk out. You're spineless, ESPN. boycott ESPN. And she's not wrong. I mean, she is absolutely not wrong. Now, look, the World Athletics, the governing body for international tournaments in sports, cross country, track and field, announced that transgender athletes who have undergone male puberty will be barred from female competition starting soon. Look, there's a difference between being a transgender trailblazer and being somebody that is taking away opportunities that in the 50th year of Title IX, women like my wife and others like her work so hard for. And all of a sudden, some dude that can walk around in a locker room swinging his thing can beat women like Riley Gaines who have worked their absolute life at it. Nobody's trying to say don't be happy, Leah Thomas. No one's trying to say don't live your best life. No one's saying that even a little bit. What they're saying is don't cheat real hardworking women. And if you are transitioning from a man to a woman, then you should compete with the men. If you are transitioning from a woman to a man, then you should compete with the women. That's the fairest way to go about this. Not wake up one day and say, well, I feel like a woman. I'm going to grow my hair, wear makeup, and I'm transitioning. Okay, great. We've seen this in other sports where, quite frankly, it's unfair to women. And I'll never understand, and I will live my life never understanding why we have so little regard for real women. Why in a Women's History Month, we are talking about a dude that is now transitioning as a guy. Never understand it. You guys can tell me, you guys can say it, you guys can be mad at me. I am not proposing hate towards transgender people. Live your best life. Make yourself happy. But make a simple rule. Dude transitioning to woman, you swim against dudes. Woman transitioning to dude, you swim against women. It's literally that simple. And good for Riley Gaines. Riley's been on this show, and Riley is unafraid, unabashed, and I'm sure she's getting hate from all these tolerant transgender people who are oh so intolerant, who are oh so ridiculous. So guess what? You keep going, Riley Gaines, and don't ever stop. Deion Sanders had some powerful advice with his players, smart advice about staying safe, making smart decisions while away from the team, because here's what we've seen in football. We've seen a number of guys go home and get shot, some cases murdered, be involved in bad things. And Deion Sanders is sitting there going, wait a second here, I don't want to, and this is what he said, we don't want to put on all black and go to a funeral. That's real. You say whatever you want. Well, what's he think? All his players are criminals? He's not saying that. He's saying we don't want to go to a funeral. I used to tell my players every Friday night in the off season, we didn't work out Saturdays, avoid arrest. Just avoid arrest. Avoid arrest. Don't put yourself, we had one rule. Don't embarrass yourself, your family, or the program. He's absolutely right. He's 100% right. You don't need that crap. You don't need to go home. And if you really are paying attention and not just hysterical, again, I go to Barkley's thing of can you handle criticism? If you're really paying attention, you'll see that so many football, basketball players go home, have a problem. You don't need to go home and have a problem. You don't. You don't need to go home and all of a sudden, as Deion Sanders said, we don't want to put on all black and go to a funeral. And you know what the great thing about Deion Sanders is? He can say whatever he wants. A.J. McCarron, apparently the quarterback, has been getting the defensive calls from Las Vegas. This is interesting in the XFL. St. Louis, who McCarron plays for, remember McCarron, he apparently, remember the hot girlfriend that he had, and Brett Musburger said something about it. The next thing you know, everybody lost their mind, which basically kicked off cancel culture. But anyway, McCarron, in his headset, was getting Las Vegas's defensive calls. Now, I don't know about you, but that would be glorious. That would be fantastic. And of course, they blew out Las Vegas because the quarterback's like, yeah, I know what this coverage is. We'll go this way. Good for A.J. McCarron. Seriously. There's no reason this should have even come out. Like, don't tell it. Get it again. Do it over. Now, I look at this picture of McCarron, and I wonder to myself, what's going on with him? What's going on with this guy? This guy was like the All-American dude. Now he's got the crazy haircut. What's going on with A.J. McCarron? We're gonna get a little Johnny Manziel? We're going to have a little bit of something going on, Manzielish? Or are we going Johnny Manziel light? Are we going to lose our career? Or are we going to become a guy because we're going to go crazy side? I'm for you. I am. I'm for you. All right. Lastly, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm always fascinated by this. I love guys that come on. And there's a guy named Sam Burns. Sam Burns just won the match play championship. All right. He just took home the prize. He took home $4.5 million this weekend. That's a good weekend. Like, if I'm going to have a weekend, I want to be a golfer. It's a tough week, he said. I'm exhausted. All right. Me too. But, you just made more in a freaking week than everybody, myself included, makes in a lifetime. And I've had pretty good jobs. $4.5 million for Sam Burns in match play. These guys are the last true real gamblers on TV. These guys. Miss a putt, cost you $100K. Make a putt, you win $4.5 million. Look, I know it's always like $20,000 in a week for like last place is a great deal. But I got to tell you, these guys are the last true gamblers. They are. They're the last of the I don't think you're allowed to say that. I don't know what you're allowed to say anymore. I'm sorry. I don't know. I was going to say something and I'm sure it would be wrong. And who the hell knows? I don't know. So I'll just not say it. But Sam Burns, good for you, man. Good for you. So let's review. Dusty May gave us an unbelievable interview. My producer, Aaron, wanted me to get a score out of him. I gave it a swing. You got to give me credit for at least getting a swing. Yes, we are on a dusty old laptop today because I'm at Harvard. Jonathan Hutton's going to join us, Jennifer. That's right, Jennifer. We know how you feel about Jay Hutt. Jay Hutt's going to join us. I got a lot yet to get to. It's only 1 hour into the day. The YouTube chat is rocking and rolling. I would ask everybody, am I wrong? Am I wrong in my statement about that what's her face? What the hell's her name? Leah Thomas. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. We'll be right back.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
So the higher that number can be, the better you are with the committee. It's really that simple.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
He's got incredible taste in which media figures he listens to.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
Why are we going through Melania's goods? Don't make Brittany Griner out to be some type freedom fighter. Shouldn't there be a little bit of common sense? Let's roll them, big boy. What do you got?
They want to find someone to be the face of domestic terrorism, and they want it to be a right-wing Trump supporter. Don't let them entrap you into doing something dumb. But they were hyper-rational. They looked at the data, and they said it makes no sense for me to submit to this COVID shot mandate.
Get the shot or you can't go to your brother's wedding. Get the shot or you can't go to your daughter's graduation. Get the shot or else.
As the great Jonathan Hutton said, live from the Cambria Hotel to make it sound exotic, or from prison, based on my background. The great Jonathan Hutton joins. All right, March Madness so far. What are your thoughts?
Craziness. Good morning, Dan. And the Cambria just sounds much more, fancy to the Dakich liking is how I would describe it. How I would describe March Madness? Nuts. But here's the thing. I think this is a great indication of what the transfer portal can do. Even with the teams that lost this past weekend, like Kansas State. And I think it does bring the 9 seed, like a Florida Atlantic, up a notch, or if nothing else, what we've seen all year, and we've talked about it, the top 25 and really the top 10 has fluctuated so much that I think the teams like Florida Atlantic and others, San Diego State, Miami, they can have a rough patch in their season. In FAU's case, they didn't. But when they play up to competition, the competition isn't as far up or as high as what we're used to seeing. And also, I do think this is proving to some, and I had to remind myself of this, that you can make good decisions and you can do things the right way and win. You don't always have to be the loser, and not everything has to be at win at all costs like we saw at Alabama. I think this is a good reminder of that.
I told Dan Wetzel was texting me, the writer, and I said, I'm in an Indiana kind of a former player group chain, and I got boom, 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 3 in a row when Samson lost and Alabama lost. There is a God. There is a God. There is a God. And, Alabama did sell their soul. They did. You can say whatever you want, but they absolutely did.
No doubt. And they did it because they were the number 1 team in the country with a chance to win a national championship. And had they been, the 500 squad that we've seen in years past, the chances are that Brandon Miller sits. And I'm not sitting here saying that everyone a part of that Alabama program should be lumped into one category, but what they did represent the athletic department. The athletic department to the university released statements on behalf of Nate Oates and on behalf of Brandon Miller and anything else that took place over the last month and a half, saying that they stood by everything, even when they had new information. And it was all in the name of, hey, we're really good. Let's continue to be really good. And I do think there is a nice storyline conclusion to this, where Bama goes out to San Diego State, and we also see Brandon Miller have a choke job in the NCAA tournament. They're going to point to whatever injury was sustained at the SEC tournament, but I mean, he kept playing, and it's very convenient to point to that instead of any distraction that could have gone on. As Alabama just completely looked the other way on the court too. They didn't have any distraction really from January 15th until they lost, because I thought they, from a team standpoint, very good. Nate Oates had his team focused on game-by-game schedule, outlook, and the tournament. But as far as how they handled things specifically with that incident, Dan, this is the right conclusion to that, regardless of what eyeballs will be on the Final Four in Houston because of the teams. I, for one, can't wait to see it. And if this is a trend towards what we're going to continue to see, I think it's great for college basketball, not the opposite.
I agree. Look, I don't have to coach it. I don't have to get NIL money up. I don't have to do none of it, but simply watch it. And it has been remarkable. I want to get into this. John Ruiz paid a lot of money for Nigel Pack to come, and Nigel's been a very good player. Paid a lot of money for the 2 Cavenders. John Ruiz is the future of college sports. I'm telling you, my school, Indiana, is looking for a John Ruiz that's going to bring players that get us to another level to our campus. I'm telling you.
And, he's a team owner. It reminds me of T. Boone Pickens at Oklahoma State. Now, that doesn't always mean you're winning national championships, but I think the model that we've seen at Miami over the last 2 years is a great one to point to, because not every team in the Final Four has done it the way that we've seen Dusty May and the Owls have to go through it, with the smallest payroll as far as the coaches were concerned in the Sweet 16, second only to Princeton, I believe. We certainly in the Elite Eight, they were that, and the least amount of money poured into their program compared to the 14 or 15 million plus that most of these programs are getting. And then there's Miami, who I think is the blueprint of the future of NIL. If you can find, if you can find your booster. I know he doesn't like that word, but here's the deal. No one's regulating this. The NCAA doesn't have a bylaw or a rule. They have guidelines, quote unquote. And those guidelines, and what Miami had to do is agree to a slap on the wrist. They took some very small penalty for recruitment in the women's basketball program. And they pointed to John Ruiz and the players and said, we can't do anything to you, so we're going to punish the school. They're not going to do anything to the players if anything against those guidelines takes place, because they don't want to get sued because they know they'll lose. And they're not going to do anything to the booster either, because it's on the outside where they are funneling money to name, image, likeness for the player. It's only the university. And this is only going to continue. I think we've seen it just getting started at the college basketball level with Shibwe and others last year coming back for another year. And now I think we see the model that Ruiz has put out there for Miami, where you can win. Men's, women's programs, very good. And of course, they're getting back up there in football, at least in theory. That's where they're headed with Cristobal. Miami's a powerhouse, and they have a powerhouse team owner, and his name's John Ruiz.
Absolutely. No, I mean, people can, like, Larinaga literally thought for a while, and this is true, when the Southern District of New York was doing their investigation 4 or 5 years ago, one of his best friends told me he thinks he's going to jail. Like, he thinks, he lost weight, he looked on. And you know what? He got through that, and now Ruiz comes, and next thing you know, here we go. And, you can complain about it all you want, and people, but it is what it is. All right, hey, I got to go into some football with you.
Okay.
There's a lot of smoke around Derrick Henry. Where would he go? I was reading an article. Where is he going to land? And I'm thinking, wait a second here. I got to talk to Jonathan. Is this real, or is this just trying to keep clicks on a great player possibly moving?
No, I think it can be real. I don't think it's clickbait, because I think the Titans are the most unpredictable team right now going into the NFL draft for what they could or maybe don't do. And as far as trying to move up to get a quarterback, they absolutely could. They can save a ton of cap money if they trade or release Ryan Tannehill. They don't have a ton of guaranteed money on Derrick Henry. They've paid that. And I don't think they want to necessarily extend him either, because it pushes more of the cap hit down the road for him. The problem, though, Dan, is if there's a team that's going to trade for Henry, I think it takes a very specific offense. And if you trade for Henry, you're going to get a $10+ million running back that is going to be the centerpiece of what you do offensively. There's a very small group of teams that do that, and an even smaller group that do that well. The Titans are one of them. Atlanta would be another one to look for. But beyond that, Baltimore comes to mind. Beyond that, though, the teams that really, start to push the needle a bit in the run game, dual threats. I think of like Austin Eckler wanting to get traded. He does a lot more than just be the featured running back for the Chargers offense. As far as Henry is concerned, he's the Titans offense, but not many teams are going to find true value in that for how they're built compared to how the Titans are built. I think the biggest shakeup could be Henry or Tannehill, and I think anything's on the table except for them not re-signing Jeffrey Simmons. And I know they haven't had a huge splash in free agencies because they don't have a ton of money to work with. If they want to free up money and make a move, it's Tannehill and or Henry. And look, the discussion about Lamar Jackson comes up here too. I'm not getting rid of Derrick Henry if I have Lamar Jackson. But again, that fits the philosophy of the Tennessee Titans, just like Tannehill can, because it all goes through 22. It's not through the quarterback.
All right, so let's play a game. Aaron Rodgers ends up where?
New York with the Jets.
More importantly, because I want Lamar Jackson to end up in Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
Where does Lamar Jackson end up?
I think he ends up in Baltimore.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens have played this great. They really have, because they're going to, if they would have franchise tagged him exclusively, they would have paid him $45 million. He was offered on average, according to the reports, $50 per year early on in the contract that they offered him last August, I believe, was when the $133 million guaranteed came through. they're going to pay him around 33 or 34 million this year on the non-exclusive tag. And if another team comes in, they're comfortable already paying him 45 to 50 because they were going to do that anyway if they would have exclusively tagged him. So I think they match it. But if I'm another team, I definitely pick up the phone and try to get that going, because I would be certain that I make sure that Baltimore and Lamar are on decent terms enough for him to go back and for them to match it, because he's too good of a player for me to ignore if I'm another team in search of a consistent quarterback when healthy. And that's what Lamar Jackson is. Not many teams have that. We're just talking about Henry. Not many teams have a franchise quarterback, and they're certainly not going to find one every time they draft.
All right, you guys cover this great. You're in SEC country. C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, or Bryce Young. If you were going to put those four in an order, which order would you put them in?
Right now, I'm going Bryce Young number 1, C.J. Stroud number 2, Will Levis number 3, and Anthony Richardson number 4. And that's true. That's just solely based on production of what I've seen at the college level. Now, if you're asking me to reorder that on the highest ceiling, Anthony Richardson is number 1 on my list, followed by C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, and then Will Levis. So it really mixes up for me there. But Anthony Richardson also has the lowest floor. So you have to concede that it's going to take more than just week 1. Let's throw him in and see what happens if you're going Anthony Richardson. But, I mean, I don't think any quarterback right now is out of the realm of possibility for Carolina. And that's exactly how the NFL wants it for the number 1 overall pick going to draft night. I think it's C.J. Stroud to Carolina. I'm not going to be shocked if it's any of those guys, because Frank Reich is making the call. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know why they bring him in and not take his advice on what quarterback they should draft. And number 2, they've signed Andy Dalton, who Chicago also signed and then said he was the QB1 when they drafted Justin Fields. So I think it could go a lot of different ways, and Carolina controls the draft. Houston gets the next selection of the quarterback. They hope it's Bryce Young. And then after that, it is wide open for trades to number 3 to get ahead of Indy.
I saw Andy Dalton signed, and it was like deja vu all over again. Like, wait, you're bringing him in again? Is he the starter? What, Andy Dalton, for a guy that's been good, he was good in Cincinnati. People just, he was good. Right. That dude has a lifespan, and that dude has made a lot of freaking money, man. And he's brilliant. He is brilliant the way he's conducted himself, because he's never without a job. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and he's at least going to places where he has a chance to play. New Orleans was that place for him most recently. Now Carolina, because in today's NFL world, who knows if a guy gets dropped in and immediately starts or not. I'm not taking a quarterback number 1 unless he's starting for me in September. But there are some teams that say, hey, we'll wait on our rookie to get some reps behind the scenes. I don't think that's a smart play. I think he needs live reps. But Dalton is there for a reason. And he's the backup plan for week 1 if they don't have a starting option ready to go based on the inexperience of the quarterback. Carolina, though, signed him prior to jumping up to number 1. So I think they know which quarterback they want. But I'm not going to be surprised if Reich signs off on any of those guys. Doesn't he fit Will Levis to you? Like, knowing him the way you do in Indy,
yes.
I'm not taking Levis number 1. Richardson is a lot like all the comparisons are Cam Newton as far as just the athletic freak that he is. Again, Carolina, Cam Newton, now Anthony Richardson. And then I think the smart play, the safe quote unquote play, would be C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. But I don't necessarily think Carolina's owner wants to play it safe. I think he wants the best quarterback, and he's going to consider what Reich tells him and then tell them who he wants.
Will Levis, I watched, it happened to be on. I was passing time. My wife was doing something with her daughter. Forget when it was. Maybe it was when I was flying here, but I was watching some of his pro day. And the volume wasn't on. I was having lunch. I was at the airport. I was waiting to get on a flight to come out here to Boston. And his pro day was on. The first thing you notice is he's smart. The dude is just freaking ripped. and he's got, cut off sleeves, but he has a punchable face. He has a punchable face that you're like, man, you got everything, but that face tells me I can't follow you. I am so wrong on this, Jonathan, but that's what his face told me.
The deal for me is his interception rate. He's got like 24 starts
Probably
and 23
more mature,
picks.
okay?
You know what I mean? No, I understand where you're going with it. You were describing Chad Withrow perfectly until the punchable face part, by the way. Look, Levis is a good quarterback. The way that I have to phrase this makes it sound like I would not draft him. The argument that I'm making and have been is I'm just not in love with him the way Mel Kiper is. Mel Kiper's trying to make this dude out like he's a number one pick, surefire guy. And if he was that guy, we would know it because he would step up and make plays when they didn't have Rodriguez in the backfield at Kentucky. And that just wasn't the case. And to me, while he can get better, he can certainly improve. The interception and the poor decision-making at Kentucky does factor in. The interceptions and the score differential for Kiper apparently doesn't. And I would draft him top 15. I'm just not drafting him number 1 based on that with the other options available.
Yeah, I always say this. When I see a coach or I see a quarterback, I always say, would I follow that guy? Because I'll follow you. I mean, I don't need to be out in front. I'm looking at Levis and I'm like, man, there's just something about him that I say, no, I wouldn't. And I think that's really important inside of an NFL team or inside of an NBA team or on a coaching staff. I think, would I follow you? And just some, again, no volume. So, you know how it is, Jonathan. You can listen to the announcers and they sway your opinion, right?
Sure.
They give you,
yes.
It just hit, I just didn't feel it for whatever the reason.
And we haven't seen enough from Richardson to know it either, right?
Right.
And that's the key, I think, with these guys. And that's the hardest part is, do you love ball? Do you love football? Is this your passion? Are you doing this for the love of the game for which you started playing? And some of them are doing it for that. Some of them are not. And that's for any position. But especially at quarterback, you got to have that guy. He's got to be the lifer. He can't be this 9 to 4:30 guy in the locker room. He's got to come in on a Tuesday and set the example. And I think early on, a lot of the guys do that. And then they figure out the way of the NFL for some guys versus others, and they don't live up to that hype. And it's difficult to find out because the college coaches lie. They want the top pick to be at their school, so they build guys up. I'm not specifically talking about Levis here. It could be anyone. I've seen it done at Georgia a couple of times. But the idea that everybody's in this because they're really good and that they love doing what they do, no. I would say that it's a good 50-50 split in the league of why they do it versus don't.
I agree with all that. That's why, there's a couple guys in the NBA draft that played. I don't know, one guy's overseas and he's 7'4" and they're like, well, what do you think? I go, does he love ball? Is he an all-day guy? Yeah. Does he get in the gym when everybody else? Does he lift it? And the quarterback may be the most important of all that, at least they tell me it is. So I'm with you. I think you stated that perfectly. What do you got on the show today, big boy?
Man, we've got Dan Dakich on the show today to discuss all things Final Four matchups and what we have with the storylines of who went out, no number 1 seeds, second lowest average seed for a Final Four ever, and a great matchup between Florida Atlantic and San Diego State moving forward. And on the other side, UConn and Miami. And Dan, we're going to hit a variety of topics, but one of them includes the quarterback carousel and the lack of wide receiver signings to this point in the NFL. Really looking forward to it. And like you, we'll hit the ground running starting at 3:00 Eastern. Live stream on YouTube starts then. You can watch us at OutKick.com as well. We're really looking forward to it. About to give Chad a call and go grab a little brunch. We won't be at the Cambria, though.
The Cambria, baby. You're out of prison. Thanks, my friend. Appreciate you. Talk to you this afternoon.
I can't wait, Dan. Thank you, man.
Oh, man. That is Jonathan Hutton, the most handsome man currently residing on your television, your radio, your streaming. And Jennifer just loves it. I think Jennifer sits up a little straight on our YouTube when he comes on, just does the hair, the makeup. It's kind of like when I go back to a high school reunion, there's a girl that I just can't talk to. I hide from. Haven't done it in about 10 years, but even as recent as about 10 years ago, I did, and my buddies called me out on it. But Chad's, I swear to God, I'm watching Levis's pro day. And I mean, did you see any of that? He is ripped. Like he is, holy crap. And he's wearing the sleeves, but he's got this face. He's got this face and he's spitting on the ground. And I'm like, all right, is he the guy from that show? What was it called? Draft Day with Kevin Costner? Is he the guy that nobody on his team shows up at his 21st birthday party? Is he the guy that people go, yeah, he's really, really talented, but you don't want to be around him? I swear to God, when I watched him, I thought to myself, you know what? This dude can throw it. And I mean, he gets rid of it. And the ball looks like a damn grapefruit in his hand. I mean, he's got the hands. He is ripped. He knows he's ripped because he wore a real tight shirt with no sleeves, which I guess is what everybody wears. I don't know, but I would wear it if I were ripped. I think Bryce Young maybe just wore a T-shirt, but I don't care. You're that ripped. Show it, baby, particularly on a pro day, because let's be honest, everybody's evaluating every move that you make. Look at this. This dude is ripped, like crazy ripped. He looks sitting there like a Greek freaking god. Look at that muscle that has the tattoo. Look at the tricep, the shoulder, I mean, this dude is freaking ripped. And he's got a punchable face. So you have to go, does he throw the ball well enough? Is he accurate enough? Can he direct an offense enough? But mostly, will people follow him? He is not my man crush. That is false advertising. He's my man I want to be man crushed on. He's like the hot guy or girl that you date, and they're so freaking hot that you got to date them. And then about 10 seconds in, about a week into it, you're like, yeah, I don't care how hot you are. It don't matter to me. There ain't enough hotness in your brain, body, whatever, to overcome you. I did it in college. I'm sure girls did it to me. There's no question. Although I don't think anybody ever dated me for the hotness until I got to be about 48. But I'm just saying, he's that. And you got to figure it out. And I don't know why his head bothers me. I don't know why his haircut bothers me. I don't know why his chin bothers me. I don't know why this guy spitting on the ground bothers me. I don't know why. I want to know why. I want to give you an answer. I don't have it. And I'm sure, I think who was it, McShay and Louis Riddick, I'm sure they were talking him up. I'm sure they talked about how good he was. I'm trying to find it here. I got to tell you, wow on the arm, wow on the build, punchable face. And you tell me, do you draft wow on the arm? Because if you don't have an arm, you're not making it. Look, if it was all about being smart and arm strength didn't matter, Craig Krenzel, former Ohio State national champion, would have been a 20-year NFL player. You can say whatever you want. Well, you don't need arm strength. Well, you don't. Okay, great. Pull this and plays jingle bells. If I'm drafting number 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd like some arm strength. I'd like the ball out quick. I'd like a build that can hold up against the hits. And this guy has it all. I mean, I don't know. I think everybody that plays in the NFL at the quarterback position that is going to make their living partially running is going to get hurt. I think this. Man's man, he wants to be man crushed on. Yes. But every guy is going to get hurt. Body says that he can take it. Is he tough enough? I don't know. But you tell me right now that dude right there in that picture, he looks like a Greek freaking god. I guarantee you girls break up with him. I'm telling you, girls break up with him. I bet you money girls break up with him. Because it's just too much. It's just too much. I can just tell. Now, is anything that I just said there, does anything that I just said there matter? No. Hey, let me ask you a question. Hey, Will, let's sit down. And I know that, Me Too movement or someone's going to get mad at me about this or whatever you want to get mad. But I'm putting like hundreds of, ultimately, I'm putting tens to hundred millions of dollars of my money into you. So I'm going to ask this question. All right. Girls break up with you? Actually, I would ask it this way. In the course of your college career, and I would know the answer before I asked the question, but I would say, in your college career, let me ask you, how many girlfriends you had? Oh, I don't really have a girlfriend. Okay. If he says that, then you know that girls break up with him. If he says, well, I started dating, Susie over here, and Susie and I have been dating for 100 years, and I'm probably going to get married. Hell, he might even be married. I'm not. But if he goes with that, I really don't have a girlfriend. That means that girls have broken up with him. Tell me I'm wrong. And if girls have broken up with that, that means that has a lot of Jag in them. And I don't want Jag running my team. I just don't want Jag running my team. So get mad, glad, angry, or sad at me. But that's what I got to figure out. Well, you can't ask those questions. I'll ask whatever freaking question I want. Well, you better not ask if his mother's a prostitute. Okay, I won't ask that question. All right, I won't ask that one. I'll let that one go. Well, Dakich, you suck. Yes, I suck. I'm the worst. I'm horrible, but I'm asking that question. Period. How many girlfriends you got? Because if girls are breaking up with them, then I got to tell you, I don't know if I want them on my team, but I'm telling you this because you guys know, man, talent intoxicates, builds strength. He gets it out quick. He zings it. He slings it. Got to be more accurate. But, all right, we come back. I got a lot to get to. I got stock up, stock down. I got Seth Davis in there. I got a lot of people in there. Stock up, stock down. We'll be right back.
The four major notes are almost around the pitch clock, all of them. The clock start will be delayed after a brush back pitch or a big swing from a batter when the batter's equipment is displaced or the batter is splayed out on the ground. Now, this is going to be, you're going to have some argument challenges and ejections over this one because this is all interpretive, right? A big swing. That if that's the case, then I maybe intentionally fall down a time or two as a hitter to get myself some rest. The clock start will be delayed when the pitcher has to leave the mound to field the ball or back up a play, and the play ends with him off the mound. If I'm a pitcher worried about the pitch clock, I leave the circle of the mound every pitch now. React to a potential swing or whatever. Leniency for catchers who end a half inning with an at bat or on base when the previous inning ends. They will always be allowed to catch one pitch before the next inning begins. So I don't, I get, as a pitcher, I get my 8 warm-ups. And if that becomes a problem, then I might be getting a jet. My 8 warm-ups are part of my routine. Very specific, very methodic. So I'm getting my 8 warm-ups. But I understand that one too. That's to get the catchers back out in the game, but it's also to give them a chance. Hitters still get 1 timeout per at bat. Going forward, the batter may call time back in no matter where they are. Previously, they had to be in the box and ready when they called time back in. Pitchers were holding the ball a long time, and this stops that. Yeah. Again, we'll see the tweaks. We'll probably see some tweaks. We might see, I don't assume we'll do anything on the fly. You might see another adjustment period at the All-Star break, but probably that's it as the season goes on.
There's a lot of you, and including most young folk, that say, hey, I don't watch regular TV. Like, really? What's the problem with regular TV? Well, regular TV, I watch clips. I go, you do? Yeah, I watch clips. What clips do you like to watch? I watch clips. So I started watching clips. And we're going to get into that with stock up and stock down pretty soon. Can't tell you the last time I actually watched a network television show, and I bet you can't either. I'm talking about a network television show. I'm talking about a show, ABC, CBS, Fox, whatever. But I'll tell you this, I'll watch the living hell out of Family Guy clips, and I think you will as well. All right, let's talk about stock up and stock down. Oh, man, Stan Verrett. I never met Stan Verrett. They had moved out to L.A. when I worked. He is an anchor at ESPN. When I worked at ESPN, they had moved their show with Neil Everett out. But Stan Verrett is trying really hard to be a guy. Stan Verrett, here you go. Stan Verrett, I'd love to hear an explanation on how posting about it to transform yourself into a victim isn't a sign of anything other than grifting or grievance. You don't try to take on Clay Travis. You don't try to take him on. So Clay says, appreciate your hopping in my comments, sharing your opinions, pointing out ridiculous hypocrisies. Isn't making myself a victim or grifting. It's just sharing my opinion on cultural stupidity. Speaking of which, I have an easy question for you. Do you believe Leah Thomas? All right. Just do your shtick, man. Just do your shtick. Oh, okay. See, Stan Verrett doesn't answer the question because Clay Travis just simply asked him, do you believe Leah Thomas is a woman? Basically, he said, do you believe Leah Thomas is somebody that we should celebrate as a woman? And Stan Verrett tried. Stan Verrett, is one of those guys who's really trying. He understands that cuts are coming. He understands that things are happening. And so he takes a swing and he tries to involve himself in stuff that he has literally no idea. And you know what? Clay doesn't stop there. Do you believe Leah Thomas is a hero deserving of celebration for a women's championship as occurred on ESPN this morning? So, of course, Verrett says, well, do your shtick. Don't know who you were before you realized how much easier this act is. It's a good hustle if they buy it. Do you? I'm not going to dignify your foolishness. Well, all right. So you aren't going to dignify my foolishness by sharing your opinion on if men should be able to win women's championships, but you're fine hopping in my mentions to attack me for my opinion. Interesting. You work at a sports network, at least in theory. Of course, Verrett, you're good at it. I have to give you that. With some people, it's obvious. They don't believe their shtick. But you get them all riled up. It's very interesting trend in media. Contrived performance art. There should be special awards category. Stan is really trying. Stan Verrett is trying so hard. But Stan Verrett is, he's just a douchebag wimp that can't because he doesn't want to get fired. He doesn't want to step out of the norms. He doesn't want to, frankly, go against the Fuhrer, which is ESPN. He doesn't want to go against. You can't go against. And of course, Clay just crushes him. It's a sign of how broken the left wing is, believing man should compete against women and win, all this kind of stuff. And of course, congrats on your massive gig, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, you can't go against the Fuhrer. And the Fuhrer is ESPN. If you're at ESPN right now, because frankly, ESPN is going to make cuts. Now, Stan Verrett is trying like crazy here to play the race card. You all just got to be able to see it. Because this whole thing started because on CNN, they're saying if you play a meme of an African American, you are in essence wearing blackface on the internet, which is totally ridiculous, totally idiotic, and totally CNN. So Stan Barrett took a swing. Stan Barrett tried, and Stan Barrett didn't answer a simple question because none of these guys ever do. They never do. They don't answer the questions. What they do is this. They block you, or they say, well, this is some burner account, or they talk about grifting, or they talk about whatever, but they never answer the question. Anybody that ever with the clowns around Indianapolis agree with me, well, that's a Dakich, a burner account. Okay. All right. So most people like Stan Barrett are like Stan Barrett in that they'll whine, they'll bitch, they'll moan, but they can't have a civil conversation about what's going on. So a massive stock down to the clown that is Stan Barrett. But I will say this for Stan Barrett. Most of you probably don't know who Stan Barrett is, but Stan Barrett got himself a little clout by not saying anything, by just jumping in. Good for Stanley. Stanley! You win, baby. You win. Seth Davis. You just, look, you just gotta, it's just bad. I mean, his dad is so this guy somehow, but can you imagine sitting there as Jay Wright and having to listen to Seth Davis talk basketball? Like if Seth Davis wants to talk about NIL and his thoughts, hey, I'd be down with that. But you listen to Seth Davis and he's trying to describe offenses, defensives, and I know that Jay Wright is just sitting there going, oh my God. So finally, CBS got smart and moved Seth Davis out of there. Well, they didn't put him in there, but they put Jay Wright in with the guys that he should be in there with Barkley. Now you move Clark Kellogg out, you put Barkley, Kenny Smith, Jay Wright, and whoever you want to host it. Now you got a show. Now you got a big time show. But Seth Davis and his little daddy, they're just, they don't know, they can't know, they'll never know, but man, do they try. They try so hard, and I'm tired of watching him, and I'm tired of watching Clark Kellogg. Clark Kellogg's the nicest guy in America, but my God, you just can't agree with everything and then say stupid stuff and act like you're some philosopher. Ugh, for the love of all things holy. But hey, look, I guess it works, man. Says Daddy, Lanny got him a job. Says Daddy is doing all the things that daddies are supposed to do. So God bless. Good for him. I'm sure there'll be a retort, but who cares? Big East, Big Ten basketball, stock way down. This is all stock down. Stock way down. Let's show it. Since 2015, the ACC has sent as many teams to the Final Four as the Big East and Big Ten combined, and more than the Pac-12 and the Big 12. How about that? How about that? Read that again. Since 2015, ACC has sent as many teams to the Final Four as the Big East and Big Ten combined, and more than the Big 12 and the Pac-12 combined. How about that? Big Ten, my backside. Now, look, I'm in Big Ten country. And I guess you could say we're in Big East country because Butler's right there, too. But that's embarrassing. The Big Ten has a lot of soul searching to do. The Big Ten needs to figure out and get some of these coaches the hell out of there. We need some dynamic guys coaching in this league. We need some guys that go recruit. We need some guys that got some personality. Not guys that are sitting there angry on the sidelines. Not guys that are sitting there, half asleep. You need an Urban Meyer to come into the Big Ten and just change the entire landscape of college basketball. You just do. Somebody that's dynamic. A Bruce Pearl. Somebody that everybody swears is cheating. Like, I've been really disappointed in Juwan Howard. I thought Juwan Howard would come in and knock it out of the park. I thought Woodson would too. Indiana's lost like 26 games in 2 years. Juwan Howard's team is on clearly the downside after taking what Beeline had, and it was all propped up, and now it's his show, and it's down. Greg Gard, you got to do better. I know they're playing in the NIT final. Fran McCaffrey's been there 14 years, has one Big Ten tournament championship to show for it. I mean, are these guys really dynamic recruiters? I don't know. I like them all. The Big Ten, Izzo's the only guy that ever does anything for this league. Chris Collins is doing a great job at Northwestern, but if I'm Chris Collins, I'm getting the hell out of there. You had an AD that said you either get in a tournament or we're firing you after being the only guy to get him in a tournament. Ever. Oh, I'm telling you, whoever Penn State hires, God bless you. Maryland, uninteresting. Rutgers, good team, good program, uninteresting. Didn't make the tournament. Got to get some dynamic dudes, no pros. I go back to this, and I know it's totally different. I do. I understand it. Guys leave early. But in I think it was 93, we played against Michigan in a regular season game. There were 13 NBA players in that game. Now, I get it. Most were upperclassmen. Like Chris Holtman's gotten hurt because he's having guys, that Branham kid all of a sudden goes to the NBA. That crushes you. That hasn't happened in Indiana. That hasn't happened in Iowa. That hasn't happened at Wisconsin. That hasn't happened at Rutgers. That hasn't happened at most of the places. Minnesota's a complete train wreck. Horrible. Big Ten, you got to be better. The announcing's dull. I don't even have an Indiana guy. Free Dane Fife. I got a list of all the games. Not one Indiana guy. You got like 4 Purdue guys. Stop. Stock down TikTok. TikTok admits it banned our friend, NBA player named him, Ennis Cantor Freedom. A TikTok rep called the ban an error by the company's U.S.-based moderators and said TikTok does not remove content at the request of the Chinese government. They declined to say how the error happened. No, it wasn't a mistake. And it only was a mistake when they got caught. It was only a mistake once it became public. Of course, we all know that Ennis Cantor Freedom has stood up against China. We all know that. So you think it's just a coincidence that my man here gets the boot from a Chinese-owned company where every single business person and politician in the country that's not bought and sold by TikTok knows that TikTok is a direct information source for the Chinese government. I heard that from my brother who deals in raising money for massive $500 million projects. He's like, Dan, don't ever let your kids on TikTok. I said, too late. He goes, I know. He studies this. He talks. He's in some of the biggest think tanks in the country. Everybody knows this except for a bought and sold politician. And it's just a coincidence that the most famous NBA anti-China player gets banned from a Chinese intelligence grabbing operation. It's just a coincidence. We don't know how it happened. It just sort of kind of happened. Really? Oh, okay. Well, golly gee. Wow. Okay. What a bunch of crap. Pull this and plays Jingle Bells. Joe Biden. Joe Biden, every time we do a stock down, we're going to go Joe Biden. Why? Because Joe Biden is a mess. Joe Biden can't speak. Joe Biden can't walk. Joe Biden can't talk. Joe Biden isn't really the president. He's just a guy fronting it. And Joe Biden has been bought and sold. If you go back and listen to what Joe Biden used to be about and you listen to what Joe Biden is about now, I just don't like him. I don't hate him. I just see a president that shouldn't be a president. I see a president that's a puppet. I see a president that doesn't know where he is. I just see a person that is bad for our country. And you can make the argument has always been bad for our country. All right, stock up. Let's end it on a positive note, shall we? Stock up. Kim Mulkey. You may like Kim Mulkey. You may dislike Kim Mulkey. You may think she is like, oh, look at me, Kim Mulkey. You must look at me because I'm scrappy. You can hate her, but man, can she coach some women's basketball? That woman can coach some women's hoops, Lee. I mean to tell you, in her second year, she has turned around LSU, and LSU is going to the Final Four. I talked earlier about Leonine. Whoa. Uh-oh. 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 We got a problem here. We talked earlier about Lee and I watching last night, Caitlin Clark going, wow, how good is she? But Kim Mulkey and whatever this thing is that she's wearing, you disregard all her self-centeredness, her ridiculous antics when Brittany Griner was in prison overseas. And you say, you know what? This woman can coach. And if you have a college basketball program, you want her leading it. You just do. I'm sorry. You just want her leading it. You want her at the forefront. you want her turning your team around because, ladies and gentlemen, the number one thing you want as a college coach, no, it is not relationships. No, it is not graduation rate. It is nothing more than, hey, are you going to win and are you going to win big? Stock up, Kim Mulkey, you freaking stud you. I talked about Sam Burns earlier winning the Dell match play. And the reason I like Sam Burns is because I saw a special on him somewhere. And Sam Burns, if you take off the hat and all the billboards that guys wear, he's just a normal guy. Like, he's not a scripted guy. He's not a made-for-TV guy. He's not a brand guy. He looked, talked, acted like just a normal man. And I can get down with that. Look, I can get down with Superman, too. Tiger Woods is Superman. I can get down with that. I can get down with Jack Nicklaus being pompous and arrogant and kind of ridiculous and self-serving. I can get down with that. But I can get down with normal guys, too. I can't. And I saw a thing on Sam Burns where I thought, you know what? It's almost impossible not to root for this man. And he just came off $4.5 million in a week. Now, people are going to say, well, it's not a week, you idiot. He's worked his whole life. He made $4.5 million this week. Don't at moi. I'm kind of glad to say this next one. I'm kind of happy to say stock up Memphis Grizzlies. Memphis is a ridiculous town. Memphis, the shooting that they had, horrific. Memphis, the girl that punched the Bowling Green girl after an NIT game in the handshake line, by the way, stock down to her, as she has been charged with assault by the Bowling Green police. You don't mess around in Bowling Green. You want to do stupid stuff? They're used to stupid stuff. Bowling Green's a big-time party school. Bowling Green has cameras in parking lots, and they will send cops if you are peeing in the parking lot outside. True story. I used to tell my players. Cops and I were friends at Bowling Green. Great dudes. So that young lady, okay. So Memphis, bad rap, right? John Morant acting like an idiot. Worse is John Morant's dad acting like an older idiot. But you got to pitch in for the Memphis Grizzlies. Through all this, John Morant leaving, coming back, you know what they've done? They've won 6 in a row. And the kid with his back to us right there, Desmond Bain from Richmond, Indiana, he's been pretty damn good. Went down to TCU, kind of jump-started their program there. He's been really, really good. So Morant comes back. What's-his-face has been absolutely sensational. I mean, sensational. Talking about Jalen Jackson or Jaron Jackson. Been terrific. Yeah. Oh, my God. Okay. We got some interesting stuff. Senator BS says, AOC is my favorite Latina. She deserves to be on the woke top 10 every week. Roel Miller says she's an actor. So, without further ado, what is our woke adult? Dan, I used to love that not top 10. How about DD gets a segment like that? The woke top 10 or something for a Friday segment. You know what, Dylan? I got to tell you, Senator BS brought it right there. I do. I think we go with a woke top 10. The top 10 of wokeness this week. Now, most times it's going to feature probably the same thing. Oh, Lee, I'll ask you this question. There's a headline. Men look more masculine when they wear makeup, studies show. The answer from Lee was, oh, geez, I think that meant no. Who did the study? You know what I mean? Like, okay. I mean, there are places, if you do that study, that you are going to get, I don't know, you're going to get that answer. Yes, where they play YMCA. It's fun to stay at the, I, ladies and gentlemen, am a big fan of all people. Before I gave one of the most epic speeches in the history of radio at an event where our boss got mad and walked out because I said, well, there are knee pads in the back. I'm not going to get into all of it. My wife, her son, our two friends, we went into Ollie's, which is a gay bar. We like Ollie's. Ollie's is usually fun. But I walked in with three handsome young men, two Caucasians, one African-American, and a lady. And the guys at the bar weren't very happy. They felt like I apparently was taking all the good stuff. And they yelled at one of the guys, oh, you guys just have daddy issues. Like I was the daddy. Yeah. Look at me. I love you, peeps. I'll tell you what, if you went to Ollie's in Indy and you asked that question, you're probably going to get it. Yeah, you're probably going to get that answer. All right. Do we have another one today, Dylan? Uh-oh. People think my best friend is gay because I'm transgender. Yeah, I don't know. See, all right, here's the deal. They addressed this way back. They addressed this way back on 2.5 Men. Alan Hunter brought home a transgender woman who had gone all the way. She had real commitment, if you know what I mean, from going from a dude to a woman. And by that commitment, I meant the pack eat was gone. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know where I stand on all this. I honestly don't care. If these two are living their best life, fine. But just don't let a dude swim against women, win a national championship, and then call her a hero. That I have a problem with. The transgender thing, fine. Do your thing, baby. Do it. And I don't want to, I've always said, and I'll stand by this, I don't care who you're stupping. I've never cared who you're stupping. Why are you telling me who you're stupping? Why do people say, well, I'm gay and proud and start making out with a dude? Great, do it. But I don't say I'm heterosexual and proud and I walk down the middle of the street making out with my wife and putting my hand down her drawers. Do I? So stup away, people. Stup away. But why do I got to know about it? It wasn't great English. Why do I got it? It wasn't great English, but it's my English. I don't have to know about it. It's like I've always said, love the gay pride parade. But why does a naked man on a tricycle or on a bicycle have to be involved in the gay pride parade when there's a bunch of kids there? If you can explain it to me, I'll listen because I, ladies and gentlemen, even though it belies being a bald-headed middle-aged white guy, even though my look belies, I am a very open-minded person. So I will listen to you, but you got to explain to me why we have a parade in downtown Indy, downtown, and why does there have to be a guy? It's a gay pride parade, so I assume the man is gay. Why do we have to have a guy literally riding with a hairy back, hairy ass on a bicycle in the middle of it in front of kids? I'll hang up and listen. Yeah, you couldn't, could you? All right, programming note. There is a great, not a good, a great documentary on Netflix on Waco. Waco is all the rage now. Donald Trump did a massive rally there yesterday or day before, and people are trying to say it wasn't. I've seen the pictures. Pretty good sized rally. But I got to tell you, if you're looking for something on Netflix, if you're looking for a go-to show, Waco, the new documentary on Koresh, is about as well put together as you'll ever see a documentary. Real footage, real recordings, real men that were there, real women that were there. I think I got to say that. I don't know if I've, yes, there are women talking about it. Yeah. So real men and real women. I would have to say real women anyway, right? And I would have to say that, white, black, everybody's in it because you guys, everybody gets crazy if you don't, no matter what's true, you got to say it. Okay. So anyway, it's fantastic. And in fact, I watched the first episode on the flight out here. I fly out this afternoon, and I got to tell you, I can't wait to get on the plane, settled in, put the headphones on, and watch the second episode because it is really, 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 really good. Not kind of good. Really good. The YouTube chat absolutely pumping. YouTube chat got a little horny today. I blame Jennifer because whenever Jonathan Hutton's on, I got to tell you, Jennifer has watched the Waco. It's really good. It is. And I'll tell you what else. Succession just started up again. Fantastic. Ted Lasso just started up again. Sensational. Absolutely the best. So anyway, Netflix has got you covered. All right. All week, we're going to be covering a couple of things. We're going to be covering NFL free agency. We're going to be covering the Final Four. Great job, Aaron and Dylan, getting Dusty May on today. Thanks to Dusty May. Thanks to Jonathan Hutton for coming on. You guys on the YouTube chat, you guys absolutely rock and roll. You do. Yeah, there's freaky minds out there, Sean Black. Sean Black, I swear to God, I'm going to get, I promise, my check to you for the golf outing. I swear to God. Dan, can you read your top 10 mean tweets? I think so. I think we should. Again, if you want to, you Indiana fans, if you want to know what I have been talking about Indiana basketball, just listen to Dusty May's interview with me today, where he explains they don't have anybody doing anything other than team. They don't have guys worrying about brand, worrying about anything. They just have guys wanting to be basketball players. They have guys wanting to be successful in their sport. They study their sport. This is impossible for the 36 blogger boys and maybe the current and former players at Indiana, the modern former players, to understand. But we, as former players, totally get this under the Bob Knight regime. We, and that includes Dusty May, understand all of this. And Dusty's talked about it perfectly today. So hopefully if you're an Indiana fan and you hate me and you're going to whine about me, you'll just go see the interview and you'll understand what I have been talking about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Harvard is the Indiana University of the East. There was a documentary on Netflix about rare art stolen in Boston from a museum. Lee and I are headed there now before my flight. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Ryan and Dylan and Davey and Haley and Kayla and Aaron and Gary and the whole crew. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining.